All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to break down the process behind one of the most important, but probably most overlooked materials in our modern world, ductile iron. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? There's this massive, hidden network of pipes for water and sewer systems right under our feet. They have to put up with incredible pressure, shifting around all sorts of stuff. Well, the secret is the material they're made of, and it all boils down to some really clever chemistry. So here's the secret sauce. It's the huge difference between old school cast iron and modern ductile iron. On the left, you've got gray cast iron. If you look at it under a microscope, its graphite is shaped like these sharp little flakes. You can almost think of them as tiny built-in cracks, which is what makes it so brittle. But check out the right side. In ductile iron, the graphite forms these almost perfect little spheres. This one change, it seems small, but it completely revolutionizes the metal. It stops cracks in their tracks and gives the iron this incredible combination of strength and flexibility. And that's really what this first part is all about. The switch from flaky graphite to spherical graphites, it's nothing short of a revolution in metallurgy. It is the absolute core concept that makes ductile iron the powerhouse material that it is today. So officially, ductile iron, you might also hear it called nodular iron, was patented way back in 1948. Its number one defining feature is that unique internal structure, those spheres we were just talking about. That's what gives it this fantastic mix of toughness and reliability, making it pretty much a dream material for engineers. So how do we actually make this stuff? Well, you can think of it like a recipe, a very, very hot recipe with 4 key ingredients that you have to get just right to get that perfect result. Let's run through our ingredient list. First up, we've got pig iron. That's the basic crude iron that comes from smelting ore, and it's our foundation. Next, we mix in scrap iron and steel. This is awesome because not only is it great for recycling, but it actually helps make the final product stronger. Then you've got your alloying elements, things like copper or nickel, that help us fine-tune the properties. And finally, the star of the show, the ingredient that makes it all happen, magnesium. Okay, this part right here is the absolute most critical step in the whole process. Adding that little bit of magnesium is what kicks off the chemical reaction that forces the graphite to form into those all-important spheres. This is where the magic happens. First things first, you need a ton of heat. We're talking serious heat. The raw materials get loaded into a furnace and cranked up to about 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. That's around 1,540 degrees Celsius. It melts everything down into one consistent liquid base iron, ready for that next step. And now for the drama. See, here's the thing. Magnesium actually boils at a lower temperature than the molten iron is at. So the moment you add it, boom, you get what this quote calls a violent reaction. It's like a flash boil that stirs up the entire mixture. The magnesium reacts with junk like sulfur and oxygen, and in the process, it forces the carbon to form not as flakes, but as those perfect little spheres. And you want to know what's truly mind-blowing about this? It takes a ridiculously tiny amount of magnesium to pull this off. We're talking about 0.04%. Just that tiny little bit is enough to completely change the molecular structure and create true ductile iron. It's a tiny addition for a massive, game-changing result. Okay, so once the iron is treated, it's basically a race against the clock. You have to get that molten metal into its final shape before it starts to cool and solidify. This is the casting stage, where we turn liquid metal into something useful, like a pipe. Now, there are a few different ways to do this. Sand casting is probably the most common, where you use a mold made of tightly packed sand. You've also got lost foam casting, which is great for really complex shapes. And, as we're about to see, centrifugal casting is the absolute go-to for making things like pipes. Each method has its own perks. Really just depends on what you're trying to make. Yeah, when it comes to pipes, centrifugal casting is king. It's a really cool process. You pour the molten iron into a cylindrical mold that's spinning super fast. The centrifugal force literally throws the liquid metal against the walls of the mold. As it cools, it creates a pipe that's perfectly uniform, dense, and super strong. It's just a really elegant way to make hollow, symmetrical stuff. But hold on, we're not quite finished yet. Even after the iron has cooled and taken its shape, there are some final steps to really dial in its properties and, most importantly, to make absolutely sure it meets the crazy high standards for the jobs it has to do. So, one of those steps, it's optional but really powerful, is heat treatment.
By carefully heating and then cooling the finished casting, you can tweak the iron's internal structure even more. This lets you customize it for very specific uses, like making it even more flexible or way harder.
And there are two main ways to do that. The first is annealing. That's where you heat the iron up and then let it cool down very, very slowly. This gets rid of any internal stress and makes the iron more flexible and easier to work with. On the other hand, you've got normalizing. This time, you let it cool down faster, just in the open air, and that results in a stronger, harder final product.
And finally, we have quality control. This is the part that is absolutely non-negotiable. Every single batch goes through a whole battery of tests. You've got tensile tests to see how much you can stretch it, compression tests to see how much you can squeeze it, and impact tests to make sure it can handle a sudden shock. This is all to guarantee that every single piece is safe and reliable.
So after all that work, what's the payoff? Well, you end up with a material that's way more cost-efficient than steel, but still has incredible strength and durability. It's malleable, so it can bend and deform without just shattering, and it has really great corrosion resistance. It's just a remarkable package of properties all rolled into one. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Just by changing the shape of some carbon in iron, we created a material strong enough to build the foundations of our entire world. It kind of makes you wonder, what other everyday materials are all around us, just hiding their own powerful scientific story?